Rain alert. We have been recording this episode during some very light, sweet Southern California rain. So if you hear the pitter-patter of little raindrops, that's why.
Hi guys, it's Rachel Guest here, your resident Tough Cookie, and welcome to the Train with Tough Cookie podcast, where we talk about the personal in personal training. My guest today is someone that I am beyond blessed to have with me here today. Not only am I blessed to have her around for a laugh, hear one of her most amazing, relatable stories from her childhood, quote phrases together from movies such as My Cousin Vinny, Mean Girls, and fantastic comedians like Miss Coco Peru. She has by far one of the most caring and understanding hearts. I have never, ever had my spirits lifted so more quickly than whenever she is around. The most easy to listen to, calming and realistic outlook on any problem that might be on my mind. She is a real friend who I'm always comfortable talking about my biggest insecurities with, knowing that I will never be judged. Never, ever fails to take one of the most photogenic, beautiful photos I have ever seen. The most hardworking, self-reliant, no bullshit friend I will ever have the pleasure to know, Miss Dana Labasco.
Are you trying to fucking tell me?
Maybe. Well, I try to write a love letter to whoever is gonna be here, because I realize that people don't think these things about themselves, but it's so easy for me to see that in them. And then when I say it, people are like, no. And I'm like, shut the
No, I feel like I just got to hear my own eulogy in a way that's so beautiful.
I mean, she enjoyed Chili's, like, and then
she loved an appetizer platter.
I mean, what can I say? But I wanted, that was the thing that we're going to start with, though, is that I wanted to ask, because for those who don't know and are listening at home, I don't remember how I meet a lot of very influential people in my life. My husband included. I can't really remember how we met. But I want to start with a story about how you met me. When? In 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago. Yeah. I remember vividly, because I always remember when people are kind, when often they are in a position to kind of be either standoffish or mean or cold. So I was brand new at a job at a sports bar. Sorry, I'm yawning. That's embarrassing.
You're just,
I'll go back.
checking range.
So I was new at a job at a sports bar, and the person there were a couple of us who had just gotten hired. We had gotten sat in front of a screen to watch, what is it, a training video, where it was some woman from HR reading all of the ways that the multi-million-dollar owner of the restaurant could fuck us over legally.
But it wasn't even like just that. It was like, here's what they're reading. You could physically read it yourself, but we have to sit you here and you have to listen to somebody read it.
Correct. I'm glad. Yes, that's exactly.
I forgot about that.
Exactly. It was a 2.5-hour video that 100% could have been an email that I could have read through on my own time and signed. But you came out and you were so lovely and so nice. You asked everybody's names, and then you fast forwarded the video.
I did? Mm-hmm. Oh. In my mind, it's VHS.
It was this whole, because you were the opener at this restaurant, so you were walking around with your headphones and your little cart, and somebody had just been so cold to all of us and been like, watch it, don't be on your phone. And then you came out and you were super nice and really helpful, and then fast forwarded 20, 30 minutes of it, so we didn't have to sit through the really boring jargon part, and that's how I met you.
You know what? Working hard since 2011. Good job, Rachel. Good job.
It was a sincere act of kindness.
Oh, that was the first time I met you? God, mm-hmm. I wish that I could remember that. I remember that specific area that we all sat in and watched the video, but that was awesome.
Yeah, because people just in general were not at that place, weren't very nice, and you were a very nice person that worked there. So I was like, well, I really am going to gravitate towards this person who's actively not being mean. I don't even know if you were being particularly nice. You just weren't actively being mean.
Well, I think that building was, and I think this plays into my personality of feeding off the energy of people that are in the room. And that building I don't know if it's still haunted, who knows, but it was just filled with like regret and sadness and like, so let's just drink it away. So it was really hard to be positive. And I think that was one of the things that, God, I don't know how old I was when I started working there. I was not in my 30s, but it was like, God, this really destroyed me as a human being for the last 4 years until things started happening again. Like where I was like, oh, it's like it took you so far into a pit of despair and horribleness.
I think toxic work environments don't get nearly enough attention for your mental health, because when you're going to a place every day that is not only exploiting you from the top down, when the people that you're working with are also in that boat with you and are actively being competitive, because that's what we have to do to at that particular place, that they would put everyone's sales up on the wall to have us compete and know who got the best schedules. So basically, like, they pinned everybody against each other so that we wouldn't rebel and get mad at the system and all of the people that were just exploiting labor from the top. So it was a really bad environment to work in. I'm so glad that we are not only out of that particular place, we've worked at another place together serving. And isn't it so nice that we haven't cried in a fridge?
I miss it.
You miss the fridge? It's a good place to cry.
When you go around and do like the introduction into like, oh yeah, this is where we keep all the liquor, this is dry storage, and this is where I go to cry. So
every time. Like, if you need to smoke a cigarette and take a second, here's the door to do it. There is an alarm. There's a 50-50 chance a fire alarm will go off. You will get in trouble. Do it at your own risk. Yeah. Fridges for crying and for getting yelled at.
Oh my God, that's right. They used to take people and okay. Too many flashbacks are coming back.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to trigger you. I've just been like living on cloud nine after. Like, this has been the most stressful, like, scary time in my life. Yeah. And also the most liberating that I haven't had a man in his 40s who just gave up on life scream at me in a walk-in freezer next to chicken and jalapenos.
Well, and the thing that really kind of was such a blessing in disguise about this past year, and I was just thinking about it on my run this morning, of like, if you were, say, 2018, when I first started on this journey of opening up a business and all this good stuff, and someone was like, hey, you're still going to work in the restaurant industry, right? At least until you're making millions upon millions of dollars. That's what all small business owners do. You're going to have to work at the restaurant industry. What do you think is going to be the one thing that's going to get you out of that restaurant industry? And this would have been literally the last, like we talked about, I don't think I understood what the word pandemic was, and I didn't know what it was. So I'm like, so it has been terrifying, because this is the only thing I've known. Other than being like on set or working out in the fitness industry. And it's like, I just talking to you and being like, oh yeah, remember those things that we used to do and those coping mechanisms that we used to have. And right now I'm working on a lot of them not being here, which is terrifying. But also being terrified means that there's growth.
Yeah. What are you doing that, like, what stuff are you changing?
For me, I realized that not only being somebody in my 30s, but also I'm not working in the restaurant industry, which was totally filled with, drugs and alcohol, which makes sense because it's all young kids, theoretically, young kids trying to make money, and it's a very flexible job, and you really don't have to give two craps about it. So walking into that and just having that be like, oh, I had a really long day, I'm gonna have a drink. And then it never turns into just having one drink. It turns into like, oh, it's 4:00 in the morning and now I have to get up in 2 hours to go to work. So not having that, and I've talked about on podcasts before about how, like, alcohol, I had no problem with alcohol. What I had was what it did to me the next day and what it did for my psyche. And so that's something that I'm trying not to have around anymore. And for the past, I don't know, about 15 years, working in recovery from bulimia and anorexia, which it's never been easy, ever. So trying not having those things to hold on to and to cope with the uncertainty of the next part of our lives is like, oh, cool. I'm gonna go run. Like, try something where I'm trying not to be so anxious. And
that's so amazing.
It is and it isn't. Because I feel like it should have taken something else besides the pandemic to realize, hey, you're worth something and you shouldn't have to do those things.
I have a question, and I mean this sincerely, and not in like a. Could you have started running a second before you had started that journey with yourself? Like, could you have gotten to running any sooner in your life than the moment that you found it?
I probably had, and I think I had when I was like in high school, and I see all the signs of like, excuse me. I think I'm going to piggyback off that question into like, if I would have just accepted the way that I looked and the way that I was when I was younger, like, I think that my mission now as a trainer has kind of, there's a lot of things I want to do, but the one main thing is to have like, if I had had somebody like myself now in my younger years, oh my God, I don't know, I'd be like, I don't know, maybe a doctor, right? Or like not, at least not have some of the problems I have. So my main goal is to be like, okay, I guess offer acceptance and to be that type of person that's like, cool. Yeah, you may not look like so-and-so, but who wants to be that? Be you. And I think I would have gotten, into running a lot quicker than 20s.
Well, I don't know. I do want to challenge that thought, because maybe potentially had everything lined up, but you needed every single thing to happen to bring you to becoming the runner and the trainer and the friend and the business owner, everything that you are.
True.
I think like that was really specific to your story and the kind of person who you are, because being an empathetic person as a trainer is not really something that you see super often. It's not part of the narrative that we get fed about the fitness industry. So I think it's actually probably your greatest strength that you found it in the way that you did, where you were coming at it from a place of like, I found it later in life, which I think is so cool. Like, you're not someone who's like, oh, I started running at 9 and I've been doing this forever, and I like did cross country. Oh, sorry, don't mind those. They're all my trophies. And, you know, I think like it's so, it speaks so much to your character, because knowing your journey wasn't this like seamless, easy, your whole life was lined up for you to know how to take care of yourself, and you still figured it out, I think is the most admirable thing, as opposed to what you were just born in like a ballerina's body and everything like worked out. And how boring.
I was gonna, how boring.
I'm sorry. Like, there's no interesting people at dinner parties without trauma, darling.
That's actually extremely true. But that's a very good, I've never even thought of that in my writing and my recovery, like trying to take what's happening now with like, oh, this is happening. What is it? Crap. Now I'm forgetting everything that I've learned.
No, well, because I'm saying like with all of the stuff that you're doing now to take care of yourself, and you're saying, why did it have to take a pandemic? Well, lucky for you, we have a pandemic, and it's led to more self-growth for so many people that we're all kind of doing it as a group, which is cool, with kind of low stakes socially, because there's not a ton of it, and we're getting to explore all these things. Like, I've been sober from alcohol for a minute for that exact reason. I was fine with a couple of drinks, but 30 hits you like a ton of bricks, and turning 30 was like the best thing that ever happened to me. I absolutely love it. I want to change the narrative that we like turn into like bags of dust and like float into the wind. But the next day, being hungover was the most triggering thing for my eating disorder, for my anxiety, for my self-worth. It took days to get my sleep to a place where I could recover again.
Exactly.
So I think the fact that we even figured out that was the catalyst for all of that stuff is so smart, because nobody talks about that.
No.
They're like, skinny drink?
Yeah.
Did you know it's 100 calories to mix a soda water and a shot of vodka?
Well, didn't you know that like White Claws have like 4? Yeah.
Yeah. We're like 70 calorie White Claws. That's how I get what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
And have my cake and eat it too. And it's like, no, not really.
Yeah. But it's that, and I think that's at least for me, it was like, oh, I'm anxious. Let's do the thing that gets you the most anxious the next day. Drink a whole bunch. It's like, don't worry, it doesn't get you to sleep either, because you're going to wake up in a panic, which that was like the last straw for me, was waking up and being like, I can't breathe. Cool.
Was it not at 6 o'clock in the morning because your body goes,
yeah,
hey, remember all that fun you borrowed from tomorrow last night? It's 4:30 in the morning.
Good luck.
I can't sleep through. If I have more than 2 drinks, I cannot sleep through the night.
Yeah.
Which is embarrassing.
It's not embarrassing. You know what's embarrassing is now I'm like, oh, it's 8:45. Nah, the sun's down. I can go to bed.
Sun goes down. Has the sun always gone down this early?
I don't know, because we were always working, so we didn't know. So either we got to work when it was dark or we left when it was dark. So it's like, this has, again, been very extremely liberating. Like, oh, there's a 4 o'clock in the afternoon now. Like,
I have a question, because
Yes,
this
ma'am.
is something that has been so different, because I was 21 when I started serving out here.
we were we were
So
babies.
young.
Yeah.
I realized that as an adult, I've never had dinner at dinner time.
Right? That's the thing that's happening now. It's like, oh, it's 5:30. I get off of my Zoom meeting, and now I'm like, I'm hungry.
Like, I don't have to go to work now to
Right,
give
yeah.
everybody dinner? It's not dinner time for everybody else?
You don't have to eat dinner at 4:30, and then when you get home at 3 o'clock in the morning, eat again.
I mean, I haven't eaten a meal standing up in months.
Oh, Christ. I mean, over the sink is always a good idea.
Just a scavenger for somebody sent this burger back and didn't touch it. And I'm like,
I get to live vicariously through my husband because he works at a restaurant that's open now and like for takeout. And he's like, yeah, I had a dead burger. And I'm like, oh, how old was it? Was it 45 minutes or 4 hours old? Anyway.
nothing like picking up a French fry thinking it's going to be hot and it's become a fossil.
And it's the saddest thing in the whole world.
And I still eat it. It's not like I don't eat it.
Like I'm saying, and that's the thing I'm also learning is that I've been doing, everyone's like, oh, I'm sure you know, because this is relatable content of like, oh, it's January. It's dry January. We're not going to drink and we're going to eat vegetables with meal and blah, blah, blah. And I finally was like, that doesn't work for me anymore. So I did this like diet detox. It was the only detox I've done so far in this whole thing. And it was amazing because I think I had Miss Becky on this podcast a couple months ago, and she was like, hey, you ever notice that if you just let things be, the world keeps on spinning? And I was like, it kind of related that to my eating of like, if you just eat this, nothing is going to happen. You're not all of a sudden going to be like invalid. Like you forget your brain. Like it's been so liberating. I'm sorry. It's because that was never an option for me. It was either all or nothing. And I think that's one of the mentalities that we talk about.
Oh, Mike, I mean, never apologize for being excited about growth and change.
Okay.
That's like, I mean, we should be so celebratory about it. But, of course, like, it's like, oh, I'm a woman, must be teeny tiny itty bitty about.
So sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
So all or nothing thinking is, it's so ingrained in both diet culture and fitness because they're like so intertwined. And these things like these 30-day challenges,
oh, God.
My brain has finally recalculated me reading those words spelled out as just setting yourself up to fail. That's all I see when I see those. And I've done a million of them. And I've done a million of them and finished them. I've done a million of them that I've quit. I've done every single, you name it, I've probably done it. I've done Whole30. I've done like the 30-day ab challenges. And I've been a size 12 since I was 10 years old. There's no 30-day challenge that's going to change my life. It's the only thing that works is just consistency with anything. And with all or nothing thinking, especially like you and I both having this like history with binging, when you're in a binge restrict cycle, those challenges are just constantly feeding that, and you're never going to solve binging by restricting. You have to do it the other way, and I never hear it talked about that way. I always hear it talked about of like these restriction challenges to reset your mind or to like recalibrate your body, and like all juice cleanses or detoxes are going to do is make you shit your pants. There is nothing coming from it that is going to be helpful at all.
Yes.
So the only challenge I would say to anybody is, can you go 30 days without forcing yourself to do something physical that doesn't feel natural, or eat something that doesn't feel like your body wants it or needs it? Like, do that for 30 days and see how you feel. Don't restrict something or use exercise as a punishment for 30 days. You're never going to get to a happy place with that.
God bless you, Miss Dana. I'm so glad I have that on tape because I'm 35 years old and we use tape. I know it's all digital.
I do want to make it known to anybody listening. Rachel's sitting there with a tape recorder. There's a professional here recording all of it, but for her own.
There's somebody in the background smoking, and it's all right. We got it.
Do you mean like one of those rooms where there's like men behind glass smoking cigars? Like we're recording like a old timey.
Supposed to happen, yeah.
Like a radio show.
Yeah. But there was something I wanted to say off of that is someone said it to me where they're like, how many times have you paid to lose the same 10 pounds? And I was like, oh, right. Because I've been on this kick of, because I have a lot of clients who are like, well, I signed up for, this thing and it's going to tell me what to eat when and there. And I'm like, that's great. You can go ahead and waste your money on that. But it's like this whole, and I'm going to say it and it's fine. There's going to be comments. And like Weight Watchers is diet culture. Noom is diet culture. Anything that forces you to like, hey, get on that scale and that's your number. And that's the one thing that we're going to focus on is terrifying to me. And the fact that, I don't know about you, but I was put on a diet when I was 9. And ever since then, it's been like wackadoodle about everything. And so from 9 to 35, it was always that restrict, binge, restrict, binge, restrict, binge. Oh, that doesn't work anymore. Now you have to throw it up. Oh, that doesn't work anymore. Now you have to numb your pain with whatever is around. It's terrifying because everyone just goes about their day like, oh, no, that's fine. But this isn't. Like us talking about feelings instead of why we're trying to, this is not okay. But you could do Weight Watchers for forever and be fine. Pay $40 a month or whatever it is. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, but no, like, I got put on Weight Watchers the first time I was on a diet. I was 8.
Yeah. Cool.
I often think about the parallel universe where my mother paid me for every A that I got instead of every pound that I lost, because that was a very common thing when we were young.
Yes.
For whatever reason.
To be fair, in all mothers' defense, they did the best with what they could with what they knew at the time.
100%.
Yes.
I can only change the narrative moving forward with myself. I can't change anybody, but you're completely right. The diet industry is, because it's so rooted, it's systemic. So it's rooted in racism. It is designed to fail, because if it was designed to succeed, it wouldn't be $1 billion industry. Yeah. So you have to know that even going into anything, no matter how seemingly harmless or for health or well-being, and I hate this phrase, I hope it burns and dies, is self-care. They put wellness. They put wellness into all kind. What is wellness? I don't even like. They put all of these things that are really, really harmful under this umbrella of health, and this is anti-diet culture. This is not dieting. Yeah. This is Weight Watchers. This is ready? Let's all say it together. Lifestyle. Yeah. No, it's all the same thing. It is a redesigned, recalibrated way of saying, how can we make you insecure, and how can we make you pay for it? Yeah. How can we make you hate specific parts of your body, because body styles go in and out of style, which is crazy. Like when we were young, like we both know there was one body that was it was Kate Moss.
Yeah, that's the first person I was thinking of. Yeah.
If you were indoctrined into this way of thinking in the late 90s and early 2000s, there was one body, and now there is one body, and it's the Kardashian body. And that's the problem, is that the diet industry is going to constantly reinvent itself to have a new face. Keto is Atkins. It's not doing anything new. And I'm watching people cover salami in cream cheese and tell me I'm a lunatic for eating
for
a
having
sandwich
a piece of bread.
For having a piece of bread. And I don't care about my health.
Oh, and I don't know if I've been diving into this more about like, you cannot judge somebody's mental psyche about how they look. And I see it all the time. I see it all the time with trainers. I'm sure you see it too on Instagram. I hate picking on Instagram.
I'll pick on Instagram if you don't want to then.
It's like, there's that whole indoctrination of like, if you don't look one specific way, then you're not the definition of health. And I see it, I see it with a power lifter that I follow, and she was like, cool, I have to start eating a different way because I want to go into this weight class. And people were, I think it goes both ways. People were uproarious about like, well, why can't you just be who you are? And she's like, I am. I just am trying to lift heavier weights. So, you know, and it goes both ways of like, well, you're my, and I think that's what a lot of people do is like idolize, and what's the word I'm looking for? Not idolize, but like put all their faith in one person. I guess that's idolized.
Yeah, there's a ton of like we have this like very idyllic view of people that have platforms, and we also have a very, very low tolerance for anybody changing their opinion or learning or growing, which tends to keep people feeding the same narrative because they serve a niche. So that I think is a symptom of the bigger disease, which is saying sometimes somebody who was preaching something that is really problematic can learn new information, but they're not allowed to publicly say like I was wrong because of this culture of people idolizing other people for some, like we just don't leave a lot of room to grow, which is very unfortunate because there's so much good information out there, and the unfortunate thing is that most people don't want it. They want to believe that they could look a way that they can, if they can discipline themselves enough, because there's so much personal blame with both industries, they want to believe that if I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I drink my lemon water out of that specific water bottle that this person sells through their Amazon link, and then I do the workout that their DVDs do, and then I eat the beautiful grain Buddha bowl for lunch, which I'm sorry, it's gross. It looks like the grossest food I've ever seen in my life, and I'm so sick of like yum salad water culture, pretending that this food tastes good, and then making people who eat it feel like a failure because they don't enjoy it, which is why it only lasts a week.
I know.
So they we really believe this, and I know it to be true because I believed it, and I changed my opinion on it publicly. This is maybe the first time I'm speaking on it in depth like this, but I was the yo-yo dieter. I was the person that people went to at, like, we've both gone through it to then eventually like wash our hands of it, but we don't let people with big platforms really, or not we, but society doesn't let people with big platforms change their opinion about diet culture. So hopefully moving forward, we can be better about that.
And that's what and it's so weird to me that you say that in that phrase. Not weird to me. It's so specific to my mental thinking right now about how like, it's either like we talked about, all or nothing. I'm so in it, and it's like I'm so like on track, and I have this race I'm training for, and this is what I'm eating, and this is what I'm calculating, and this is what I'm writing down. Or over here where it's like the fuck it bucket mentality of like, well, I'm gonna drink and eat whatever the fuck I want because I spent so much time over here. And I was just looking past and doing some self-reflection of like, that's all I've ever done. There has been no middle ground. There has been no like, okay, I'm gonna have, I don't know, eggs for breakfast, bacon, and avocado. Great. And toast. And then like eat like a normal human. Like this afternoon, I wasn't hungry, so I didn't eat. And if it was all or all, it'd be like, well, you have to have this, this, and this, because this is, you just went for a run. And that obviously hasn't stuck. Because who can live like that? How is that sustainable?
Well, it's not. Yeah. And it's not designed to be. No. It's supposed to be an impossible task. And that's the problem, is because we were so young the first time that you get put on a diet, and then you develop this like Last Supper mentality where there are off limits foods. So instead of eating however much pizza I would eat until I was full, I knew that I could only have pizza tonight because I could no longer have pizza tomorrow. So the pizza that I was going to eat, I had to eat as much of it as I possibly could because tomorrow it was forbidden. The second the clock strikes midnight, Cinderella, you're done, and you're done forever, because this time we're changing. I finally, in whatever like cloud of it, was like, I don't think anybody's gonna drop dead if I eat a slice or two tonight and I have some tomorrow. And I end up eating less pizza.
Exactly. And I think that that's what somebody doesn't want to talk about at all. They don't. And I hope, I mean, put hope in one hand and a realistic thing in the other, that this ability to be, I don't want to say, quarantine in our own home, but like have more time to ourselves, and like people are eating out more and blah, blah, just to do a lot of that self-reflection, because I've wanted pizza for like and that's the thing is that maybe it's that self-degradingness of like, I've wanted pizza, but I can't have that. And like, oh, well, you know, I can't have that. Like, who am I saying that to now? Like going out to dinner with friends, like, oh, I can't have that. What the fuck is wrong with you?
The amount of times that I've been and I'm so fun. I've been a wet blanket at social things.
Right.
And sat and miserable.
Yeah.
Ate my stupid salad.
Yeah, my salad.
While everyone, and I wouldn't even allow myself to have a piece of a flatbread that somebody was like begging me to take a bite of, that I would just sit there miserable because I thought I will have less fun now to have more better fun later.
Yeah.
For what? For what? Because we're never not being sold something constantly between like social media and everything. So I really believed, and I mean it when I say like, I never thought, one, I would talk about this not only out loud to another person, let alone in a situation where I'm being recorded and the internet is forever. I never thought I would be this person. I thought I was in too deep to ever be that. I thought like, I will never transcend what this is. And I'm speaking from a place of I'm healing, but I'm not healed. And I think that something that I want to be a part of changing is I don't know everything yet. I'm still learning. I'm always questioning myself and trying to catch myself in all of these ways of thinking because they're so interwoven. But I feel like there's this really, really toxic thing that exists in forums like this where people talk about growth and change, where they're talking from a place of I am healed, and that leads people to believe that they're going to hear one phrase or one sentence that is going to change them, and that they are going to be done once they figure out this thing, this like one thing clicks, and how much work it takes and how much time it takes, because you won't really realize that you've grown until you look back and see it. It's not going to feel the way you think it's going to feel. It's not going to be this like overnight turning point. And I think that that's something I just hear a lot when people are like, I left diet culture, or I left this way of thinking that was holding my life back.
That's so smart, Dana. Thank you for articulating that. Like, because it's true. No one ever talks about, like, they talk about the before and they talk about the after, and they don't talk about the work that it gets to take there. Because that's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to just know.
Because you can't, this is why, because you can't sell it.
Yeah.
You can't sell a process. You can only sell an end result. You can only sell like, hey, if you do this thing, if you go through the process, you can get here. I don't know where the hell I'm going. I've got no clue.
Neither do I.
But I know I'm happier. I just feel more like a, thank you, sorry. Felt like I was screaming for a second. I just know that whatever I'm heading towards is better than where I've been, because I know I'm unhappy in that space.
Well, and also look at the material. Like the past, what is 9 minus 35? Past
26? Oh no. 26? I got up real high on my high horse saying all kinds of stuff, and I can't subtract 9 from 35. Don't listen to me. I might not know what I'm talking about.
Like the last couple, I've been like, clearly this is your insanity. Like, stop it. And the fact that I have to verbally out loud say to myself, hey, I think you're gaining weight. So what? That's what recovery is. Your body's going to do this, A, as a person throughout the day, but B, it depends on, for us, what training cycle you're on, where you are in life, what time of day it is, what race are you going to be doing, there's so many factors, and it's not supposed to be like, oh, Christ, I gained 5 pounds. And it's like, I think Demi Lovato, I don't know, this is just something that stuck with me. Probably the only thing Demi Lovato's ever said that stuck with me is that when she was in recovery from her eating disorder, they were like, oh, she's gaining weight. And she's like, yeah, that's what the fuck happens when you eat. Like, how is this a story? Like, but that narrow-mindedness of like having to physically out loud in a room with nobody in it, myself, like, hey, it's okay. It's not forever, first off. Second off, what the fuck if it is? Does that matter? Does that change you as a human?
The diet industry will always be waiting for you if you truly have the Stockholm syndrome to like miss it. Cause I feel like I'm going through like a very messy divorce right now with it. I'm like, I'm really in it emotionally. I'm not like, whatever, but I know for a fact it's right there waiting for me if I ever choose to go back. Something that really helped me, when I was starting, like just unlearning this process was, there's like a ton of creators and people that are really on like the right side of helping people just challenge their ways of thinking. And my stomach was always something that made me feel so less than and so self-conscious, and something that I always hated. And then I was like, I'm going to Google why does my body look the way it looks? Why do my thighs have extra fat? Why is my stomach like, why is it so hard to like lose in this space? And then when I learned that for cis women and for trans men, we are born into these bodies with uteruses, and that is why we have that extra layer of fat there. It is to protect the one thing on this planet that can grow human life. And I was like, I'm done hating the fat on my stomach, because it is biology trying to protect. If I choose to carry a child, I'm not going to sit here and stay awake at night and refuse to go to pool parties and not put on the dress and just stay home, because biology is saying your body has adapted and evolved to function in a way that is going to protect. And so is the inner fat on your thighs is also there for childbirth. It's just your body preparing itself to protect itself. That's literally it. And I was like, oh my God.
I'm going to hire you as a consultant, because I've told people that so many times, because I did the same thing. It's like, oh, okay. And in when you're training and when you're progressing and when you're learning more as a trainer, you have to take nutritional courses and anatomy courses. I promised you I've taken them. where that's what you learn. And what's terrifying is that some women do have that surgery to, listen in closely, everybody. Women will go through, and for those who have means, they will deliver a child early, so they do not get in the last couple weeks that forever quote unquote pooch. So you're putting your child's life in danger. This is what we're up against. I don't want to be like, what is that scene in Avengers where there's like crap coming and you're like,
you think I've seen the Avengers?
I mean, what can I relate to?
I've seen 2 movies, and you said them at the beginning.
It's like that courtroom scene, My Cousin Vinny, when he has the black, anyway, he's in a suit got in the mud. It's like, we're the people that are trying to combat that insanity of like, this is worth it. I mean, yes, your body is your temple, and you build it the way you want it to be. But at some point, you gotta like lean into it and be like, okay, this is just what's gonna happen.
It really is David and Goliath, right? Yeah. Like to be up against something that is so big, because it's not just, diet industry, fitness culture, it is capitalism, it's patriarchy, it's systemic racism. It's all put into this one bubble, and it's so interwoven. Mm-hmm. Whenever I hear the term mommy makeover, I'm like, your nose starts bleeding. My nose starts bleeding. I get nauseous. I feel like, what is society doing to half of the population?
Yeah.
Why do we accept so many awful things? Just like you were saying earlier, like we celebrate disordered behavior. If the person develops an eating disorder when they are in a larger body, we celebrate it. If somebody, has a baby and they feel insecure, when in a perfect world, those bodies should be the ones that we idealize, like the ones that have changed and morphed over time, because it's pedophilia. We idolize children's bodies, and it's so bad, and it's so big, and it's so much bigger than anything one trainer or one comedian can like really speak on, because I'm aware enough to know that I am missing 99% of it. This is just the tip of the iceberg that's even been brought to my attention at this point. So it's so big. You're right. It's the only part that you and I can play in it is this little itty bitty with kindness saying, maybe think a little bit. You don't have to think that way. Here's another way to look at it. and that's your choice. I can't make anybody think anything different, but I can offer a different way of thinking. I can challenge myself to think differently so that I can offer other ways of thinking.
And I think it goes back to, I wrote a blog post about something where it's like peeling back the layers of like, it's taken me, I think 2013 or 2012 when I started on this journey of like, okay, this is what I think I want to do with my life, about how it's taken me this long to get to like, oh, maybe what you're doing isn't the answer. Math again is hard, but it's been almost 10 years for me to be like, oh, I finally get it now. So it's like when you start to plant that seed in somebody, it's probably not going to happen overnight, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's going to take, because saying I'm sorry, I've been on this kick for forever, it feels like almost. I still do it out of like reflex, as females being like, oh, I'm so sorry. For what? I always tell people, unless you're physically assaulting me, you do not need to be sorry for anything. Like, my inconvenience is not your problem. Like, it just, I don't really have a point where I'm going.
No, I think that you hit on such an important point, which I feel like is like, yeah, you're never not on this journey the way you're never not on a journey when you're doing the alternative. When you're in diet culture, you're always in diet culture. And when you're actively choosing to leave, it's always going to bleed in. This is the world that we live in. And something that you taught me, you were the first person to, I can like really trace back like where I'm at now to this moment that I had with you when you were definitely like, you were already like through school, you had already trained, you were, I think at like the very beginning of starting your business. You told me to write a list of foods.
I think about that once a day because I was like, I should do this. Yeah.
I can't thank you enough for that moment because I think I had like 3 or 4 pages of foods I wasn't allowed to eat.
Yeah.
Front and back.
Yeah.
And then you were like, oh, great. Because I thought like you were going to make me like a nutrition plan and whatever. Yeah. And instead, you did this like slow burn thing that took like a course of like a week to play out. You like told me one day to like write this list. I wrote the list. I like brought you the list all proud. Like, here are all the foods I'm not allowed to eat, you know, so that I could have the life that I want. And you ripped it up.
That was so cruel. Sorry.
It was the kindest thing anybody has ever done for me. Please don't think that it's cruel. It was a little fucking dramatic, if I'm going to be honest, but it wasn't cruel. It was.
I mean, what else were you expecting?
I'm so sorry. I never even asked if I could curse. I apologize. I just realized that my mouth is so bad.
It's mine too. Don't worry about it.
Okay. 40 minutes in.
I mean, subpar for the course. It's fine.
Like getting off a roller coaster. Like, was I supposed to wear my seatbelt? But you tore this piece of paper, multiple pieces of paper up, and you threw it in the trash, and you go, there's nothing that you can't put in your body to do what you want.
Yeah.
And my journey I didn't actively understand what that meant until I was much further in my journey, but I can say that sometimes your catalyst does not all of a sudden shoot you into immediate change. It was just like a seed of a thought that was present when I started learning more. And I was like, oh yeah, Rachel said that. And she's on a journey that I'd like to be more, I'd like to be more aligned with what Rachel values about her body and nutrition and fitness than where I'm at. So maybe follow this a little bit more.
Also, or not, it's fine. I'm not.
I had no idea that you didn't do it for yourself, because I'm sure you're very similar to me. Your kindness tends to be something that exists outside of you.
Of course. And it's been something that I think there's something that hit me so profoundly, again, in recovery, where they ask about reading a phrase. And of course, it's a phrase in a book that I've highlighted and wrote down. Crap I was like, this is the most writing on a page that one can put in. And it said, it was about acceptance. And I was like, oh, that's not allowed. You're not, because no matter what you do is never going to be good enough. That number's not going to be low enough. Your body fat's not going to be low enough. Your time's not going to be quick enough. You're not going to lift enough, whatever that number is. And the 2 things that I took from that meeting were, it is unacceptable that I am not perfect. And it was like, oh, God. And then I wrote a blog post about it that was like, so what, you don't know nothing. Good. Then you can fuck up.
Well, also, like, what did all of those things have in common? We're ruled by numbers in this world. Like, my happiness being dependent on numbers is so sad.
Yeah. Like, that is not your value. And I tell people that all the time, and they're like, well, I'm like, no. This is to measure your progress. The weight that you put on that bar is so when I say 50 to 60% max rep weight, you can go to your numbers. You could do some math with a calculator, because I'm not going to do it for you, and figure out what your numbers are.
Because you can't. You can't subtract.
Because I physically can't. So I'm sorry. But that's the only reason why we do that. And it's so, again.
The numbers are for you, the trainer, not for the person to get hung up on. Like, I almost feel like there should be, like, you should blindly go into some of these situations number-wise and not know what your start or your end is, but only know, like, how you feel. I would love to see that ingrained in fitness culture more.
That would be great. I would love that, and not to have it be a joke thing, because there have been I don't want to say laughed out of the room, but I have been like, oh, well, how are you going to get a person that I hold very close to my heart was like, well, how are you going to get people to, like, stay if you can't show them that you're making progress? I'm like, progress doesn't always have to be measured.
And it's not always linear, too, especially with women's bodies is very much just, it's just a tough pill to swallow, because we're taught that if we work, we can outwork and outthink our way out of it, but it's just biology. Your body's not meant to lose 4 pounds a week consistently for any length of time without sincerely damaging your internal organs, your mental health, all of that. It's just not sustainable.
And I think, saying something like that, because sometimes I feel like I'm a little too harsh on some of the people that don't have the same, I don't want to say values, but, like, case in point, someone that I work with talks about intermittent fasting like it's the end-all be-all. To me, I always say, oh, that's funny, because in recovery we call that something completely different. Like, and the people that they're telling this to are also women. And I think they're trying to, the best way that they can, be supportive, but also agree with them so that they don't leave them as clients. You talk that shit to me, you're out until you come back with a new mindset, and I'll be here to help. But, like, if that ever slips out of your mind of, like, oh, I want my stomach to da-da-da-da, or I can't eat till after 11, so can we have our session at 1? I'll be like, that's dumb. But thank you for having something in your body before you come work out. But, like, that, it just, and again, it's so, we talked about, like, how Atkins is whatever keto, and, like, how it's just you're physically selling people anorexia. I'm sorry. Not sorry.
You shouldn't be sorry.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be sorry for any of it. The product that all of these, the beauty industry, diet industry, the fashion industry, their actual product is insecurity. Yeah. The thing that they're selling is not, there's no one item, because if there was just one item, everybody would buy the one item, and then we would live in this beautiful utopia where people accept themselves and whatever. And it's like, could you believe it was the water bottle? It really was. It's got an infuser in the middle. So I use it every day, and I've never left it in my car overnight. But that's the one thing. It's like half of the population is so engrossed and so ingrained to hate themselves so much that they will go to work every day to meet their basic needs, and then once their basic needs are met, to feed into a system that makes them feel worse and worse and worse about themselves. So all anybody in your position could do is just very gently, because it's so hard.
Get the fuck out of here.
No, well, listen, for somebody like me, get the fuck out of here is the gentle way of doing it, because it speaks to what I understand, the language that I can speak in. But when you're dealing, especially because fitness has like a classist kind of like ableist rhetoric with it as well. So sometimes you're talking to rich white women who don't like hearing no, and they think that they are like, well, I lost 40 pounds after I had my last kid doing this one thing. Can you replicate that one thing that I did 10 years ago exactly that way? Again, impossible task. So trying to help. But the thing is unless people want to change their way of thinking, they're not going to. Some people believe the same way that I did that this was helping. It's like you're in a cult.
Yeah. That's terrifying too. And just thinking back of like, I mean, I understand it's like I always want to say communism. Communism is not the right word. Commercialism. I mean, but like that's how it was sold to us as trainers when you're, again, very, I don't want to say naive, but you are naive and you're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to tell my clients and this is what they want to hear. And it's like no one's even going into this industry unless you go on a very different path than the one I was on, or anyone else, like that cookie cutter, like you go to school, you do this, you learn this, and this is da-da-da-da-da. It's all the same bullshit that you're told. Like, hey, go sell this person because if you work out for 10 minutes, you burn 100 calories. So if they're with you for an hour, they're going to burn 600 calories. And this was a pitch that was given to me as a young trainer. And I'm like, oh, that sounds great. Like, oh, okay, we're going to do this. And I think what also I was trying to say is that it's sometimes so blasé, and I don't think that we correct the way that, because again, we've been indoctrinated of like, this is, oh, have you lost weight? Like that's a compliment, which will send me spiraling off into like, was I fat before? Do I need to lose more weight? Well, if I lost so much, then I can eat this. And it's like, yeah, that's on me. I get it. But also that phrase has so much value in it. And you're like, well, you know, I also got my hair done. Like, or something else like, hey, you know, I finished a book, or I wrote my doctorate, like something that's a little bit more important than that phrase.
I just wish, like, for our safety, especially as women, because I don't feel like men get that particular backhanded compliment as often. I just wish for our safety that the way that we could respond to that is none of your fucking business, which is the only answer to that question, because weight fluctuates for a billion reasons, and unintentional weight loss or intentional weight gain, depending on what your relationship to food is. Yeah. I mean, we have normalized just constantly controlling women, and that is just one of the billion phrases that is always present.
I think this takes more than, because I was thinking about that too. There was something about like where I was like, oh yeah, we're going to talk about women in business, and I'm like, we're going to need more than an hour. About how it's like it's not only being a woman in this industry, but also being somebody who doesn't speak the norms.
It's weird and scary because I'm really in like the infancy of this way of thinking. It hasn't been long enough for me to feel comfortable being like, this is like something I'm really solid or firm in. I'm still learning, and since if I say anything that hurts anybody or makes them anything, I do sincerely. I am speaking from a place of learning. Yeah. So, you know, I understand that using this language and going against every single thing that we've been taught to do to get the lives and the bodies and everything that we want. I like really believed I was put on this earth to pay my bills and lose weight. I really believed that. Yeah. So I'm not coming from this at a place of, I've been body positive my whole life. I don't understand why anybody would want to, you know, believe in this way of thinking. Like, I'm coming at it from it at a place of, I woke up to something and am learning every step of the way, but I completely understand why you think the way you think. Yeah. I hear you, I see you. I only hope that you eventually might start questioning why. Yeah.
That's such a loving and kind way to do that, because I know that I think that's also not how we talk to ourselves. We're not loving and kind to ourselves, and it's like, oh, okay, this makes me feel uncomfortable. Oh, let's do the other thing. And it's like, I think I should apologize as well. Me more so than you.
Well, no. I think, because the biggest thing, my journey to this part of divorcing diet culture was a direct result of me divorcing my relationship to my people-pleasing trauma response. So I had to learn how to be kind to myself, show up for myself, and then this became infinitely easier. This became something that I thought was going to be like my white whale, accepting my body, became one of the most joyous parts of my growth. And it was something I was always so afraid of, but I had to kind of do some work adjacent to it. And then all of a sudden I was like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like it didn't happen the way I thought it was going to happen. And it doesn't feel the way I thought it was going to feel, but I do promise it is good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing that has held me back from all this is the control and the fear. I have been terrified of like, oh, well, if I don't log my food, then how do I know how many macros I'm like, okay, great. But did you feel better or worse after your training session? I think it's the fear of just, especially now, not having that control over something. And as I'm white knuckling it now as I speak to you. And so, okay. So before we leave, I normally like to ask all of my guests what their favorite race is. But I don't think you've ran a marathon, have you?
I haven't run up the street.
Okay. Wait, the one thing I wanted to say is that when you and I worked at that sports bra, yep, there it is. When you and I worked at that sports bra, and we worked in the bra, and we worked in the bar, you and I would walk probably about 7 miles. And the only reason I know that is because Alex wore a Fitbit one night and tracked it. So,
I've something very similar. I looked at my like pre-pandemic my steps, which is why I would say I had my phone on me whenever I would get corrected about it. I was doing about 20 to 25,000 steps every day. Yeah. So that was my primary source of exercise, was being on my feet at work. Now in the new year, my New Year's resolution was to just find some movement that I enjoy. So I've been trying a bunch of different things recently, but I am not a runner. And I will never pretend to want to be one ever again.
And that is fine, because I get it. It's like cycling classes. You either love it or you don't. And if you don't, that's fine.
And that's fine. There are plenty of things that I will enjoy. That just simply isn't one of them. Because I've got these.
Understandable.
Yeah, I've just got perfect, bouncy, giant titties that are telling me every day, this might not be for you, and that's okay.
Damn it. We're going to have to cycle guests back again, because there was something I wanted to talk about, which was, if I don't work out today, it's literally like the light on, light off. Like I have to turn this off 4 or 5 times before I leave the house. Otherwise everyone dies. And that's what I'm going through at this moment, because it's the last crutch that I have to hold on to. So I'm no longer restricting my food. It's like, okay, well, it's cool. You have to work out every day, which is not, if you guys don't know, I'm 35. I'm on this half of my life, not that half of my life. So it's not good for your body to do the type of stuff that I do every single day, and to work out the extent that I do every single day, because there's still that eating disorder mentality of like, oh, well, you had something you shouldn't, so you should probably work it off. Which is, I've done the research. You can't. There's no way. You can't. Our bodies aren't meant to burn more than we're taking in. Well, some people are. People have the metabolism of a hummingbird, but it's fine. But that's...
Good for them.
Right, good for you.
Good for you. That's great. That's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. That dress is gorgeous.
I'm so happy for you. I love how you could just wear anything. All right, so here's some rapid fire questions. You can explain yourself if you want. All right. Number 1, cookies or brownies?
Brownies.
Thank you.
Hot.
Edges.
Give me an edge.
Gooey.
Gooey.
I've been on this brownie kick. I'm making some tonight. Okay, agreed. You can go on to the next step. Yoga or Pilates?
Hot yoga.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
The euphoric feeling when you finally get to leave that awful room is one of the best things in the entire world.
I did this 30-day hot yoga challenge, which I don't ever recommend somebody doing. I don't know why. I was in my 20s. It sounded like a good idea. I wanted to do it anyway. But it was a lot of fun. My hair was disgusting though for those 30 days.
Oh.
It's not a beautiful type of thing.
No.
Okay. Oh.
It is disgusting.
I'm so glad someone else knows of it, because you try to sell that to somebody else and they're like, no.
I think the way to sell it is, do you dislike yourself a little bit, but feeling like you took a drug that's not going to alter your mind too much to not be able to drive?
Yeah.
Do an entire hot yoga class and you'll get hit with 10 seconds of euphoria for an hour of work.
And I will never, do you also like being yelled at and treated like shit while you're trying to still survive? You can't leave the room. Ma'am, I'm going to shit my pants. So if you do not let me leave this room, I'll never forget that. I was like, hey man, you go. Get on with yourself. I might know the words of the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
Iced or hot coffee?
Ice.
Duh. Okay. Thank you. Cake or pie?
Cake. A whole cake.
A whole, thank you. Book or movie?
Movie.
Okay. Thank you. People are like, oh, the book was so much better.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Everybody's lying constantly. I'm so sick of everybody lying. There are plenty of people that enjoy reading. I know lots of people that enjoy reading.
Yeah.
But we got to knock it off with like the holier than thou. You know what my favorite cake is? Like it's tofu wrapped in smoked salmon. Like, what are you talking about? This is crazy.
It's not cake at all. It's a charcuterie plate. It's like, no.
Not the question. Not the question at all.
Okay, thank you. Well, that was pretty much all that I had. But I did also, I'm very happy that someone else thinks about movie instead of book, because
yeah, I'm not a liar.
they do all of the thinking for you. I mean, there are some self-help books that clearly cannot be turned into a movie. Like this one I'm reading now is Solutions and Other Problems, which could be my autobiography. And it's like, okay, well, that you are on your own journey, but with the movie they do literally all the work for you. You're like, oh, that's what Hagrid would have looked like. Cool.
Well, that's the thing is when you read a book, and it's not that there are some books that are wonderful, but when you read a book and watch the movie, it always makes the movie disappointing. But I've never gone the other direction and been like, oh, the movie ruined the book. And also, oh, it takes so long.
Well, one of my, promises to myself, because someone told me, hey, think about it as a commitment to yourself. Try giving yourself a little bit more respect and finish something that you promised yourself you were going to do. And I was like, also, I never thought of it this way, is taking the amount of pages that are in the book and divide it by 30. And then that's how many you have to read in a night. And I was like, that's genius. You mean I don't have to do it all in one day?
No, you don't have to do it all in one day. But like we have a laundry list of things that make us the best version of ourselves, which is consequently like the best version of ourselves is also the hottest, and it's the version of us that reads the most, and it's the version of us that like takes our vitamins and does all these. The laundry list of stuff, if you don't enjoy reading the same way, like I believe like the way that you're saying, like if I don't enjoy running, if you don't enjoy reading, all it is you just need some time to decompress. However you choose to do that, that's what's important. It like literally doesn't matter, because like these 30-day challenges to like better ourselves, we are disassociating with self-improvement at such like an alarming rate, and nobody's living their lives. Everybody's just all pent up that they haven't read or finished or done anything, and it's so sad.
And they're just gonna be, oh, can't I just do nothing?
That's what we end up doing. We end up doing nothing.
Because it gets so overwhelming with me and my anxiety. Thank you very much. Is there any... I know we just spent an hour bashing social media, but is there any like social media stuff that you would want to get out there, or your email, or places, or your phone number if you're feeling frisky?
Oh, yes. Now that you've heard just these angry feminist takes on things, I am single, and my phone number is. I'm off of social media right now at present. I took a few months off, but. I'm on Twitter and Instagram when I am on social media, and I think my handle is just my name.
I was going to say, I think it's Dana Labasco.
I think it's just at Dana Labasco.
I could look at it, but it's fine. I'll leave it in the, whenever I post this on anything, I'll leave it in the description box of whatever it is if you want people to, not your phone number, but any social media standings.
I would honestly find that to be hilarious if they're like, Rachel Guess posted your phone number, and I'm very angry with you that you told me that diets are bad.
So anyway, I'm sorry, you didn't need that was a visual representation. No one got to see it. It's fine. I love you so much. I'm so blessed that you're here today, and thank you so much for your beautiful words. I look forward to having you back again and us talking more about, fight the power, all that good stuff.
I love you too. I will come back and just blow hot air into this room anytime you want me to.
All right, go set the table.
All
I
right.
love you. Okay.